I never grew up with educators that looked like myself. I always knew that wisdom was a powerful tool, but I also know that oftentimes we neglect it because of who it comes from.
Facts.
It's not necessarily just about being a king, it's more so about becoming a kingmaker.
Man, you got to be close enough to relate, but far enough ahead to inspire. What's going on? Let's Grow Together family. This is another edition of Let's Grow Together podcast. This your boy James. Marcus, how you feeling?
I'm swell. I'm swell. Always a pleasure to be back, man. No complaints by any means. How you feeling today, bro?
Man, it's all good, man. I'm excited about our guest. Let's go ahead and get into it. Who we got? Who we got today, Marcus?
Yeah, yeah. So we have Coach Jaleesa who will be joining us, man. And Coach, we know that your mission is rooted in realness and transformation, but curious to know what moment in your journey really inspired you to reflect that life coaching isn't just a profession, it's a lifestyle.
Man, we coming out the gate hitting. Okay. I believe that people can see through you. And so, especially when you're dealing with kids, because kids will walk up to you and be like, you stink, or, they're just very honest.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so, I think those moments when I realized like that I really deal with kids, you can't fake that. They
yeah.
can see right through it. And so it can't just be a profession. It can't just be a hashtag. It can't just be something that you just do here and there. It has to be a lifestyle because there are people who are dealing with real life things and they need to know that you're going to show up and be authentic in whatever space you're in, and that what they see online is really you and that you are who you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so in those moments, working with children and working with people who really need help, those were the moments where I was like, okay, this is a little bit deeper than just a profession. And
Yeah.
you really don't have an off switch. There's no off moments. Just like a doctor, if you're on a plane and they're like, is there a doctor here? Yeah, you're not on the clock, but if you have the life saving capabilities, they expect for you to step in.
One
And so, in
thousand
that
percent.
same way, life coaching is like that.
Man, that I love how you said everything you said. While we were doing research for you on this episode, I found this quote, and I would love for you to tell me how this quote resonates with you. It says, "Auditions are being held for you to be yourself. Apply within."
Yeah, everyone is trying to figure out who they are and figure out how they compare to other people and trying to figure out well, what is this person doing, especially in the age of social media. And I'm not trying to tell my
Mhm.
age, but there was a time where I didn't have social media
Yeah.
wasn't a thing. And so the only thing you can do is literally look within yourself, because people fade fads and different challenges and all these different things come and go, but when it's all said and done and you're left with just you and who you see in the mirror, do you like what you see?
Yep.
Like, if the person that you were trying to copy, if they change up, are you going to change up? And so, literally, you have to show up as yourself every time, because you with yourself every day. And so, and so that's what I mean about apply within. Stop looking for outside validation to tell you who you are, because people will switch up on you and have you believing a lie about yourself.
Yeah.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. And just from assumption, right? I'm
Mhm.
under the impression that this is something that you always had within you, right? You may have had those friends that were close to you. They always came to you, were venting. It was like, Jaleesa,
Oh,
we need some, right? And you always came through and ended up supporting and things of that nature. I'm curious to know, when did it really click for you? Like, this is exactly what I need to be doing. And was it in that early stage? Was that a little bit later on in life? Was there a specific moment that occurred that really was like, hey, this is where I need to be?
a little bit of both. So yeah, I've always been the friend, like, oh, I'm going to vent to Jaleesa, I'm going to tell her my business, whatever. But it wasn't until later in life where, when I was looking for a major, something to do for my master's, and I was like, oh, life coach, you could have a master's in life coaching. And so when the work in like the coursework wasn't hard, and when it felt like second nature, I was like,
Hmm.
okay, there's something to this. And that's when I realized. And so even I feel like when you are called to do something, even when you're not fully operating in it, there's still something in there that's like pulling at you, like, if there's something more, you got to dig a little deeper. And so I feel like that was me, because I had my little situations where I wasn't always Coach Jaleesa E. And
Yeah, yeah.
I had to I had to figure out my path as well. But even deep down, even in my dark moments or my moments where I wasn't my best self, this was always there. I just had to cultivate it.
Mhm. So, it sounds like you found yourself on the clock, right? Maybe doing another task a few times or two, like that. This is what's really calling me, and I can
Yeah.
relate. I heard you talk about the school element. I'm in my master class and I'm dabbling in entrepreneurship now, right? I love
Mm.
class. It doesn't feel like class. It does. It feels like
Mhm.
the thought process, and now I'm able to incorporate what I'm doing on paper, what I'm doing on the computer, into everyday life, and it just feels beyond practical. It doesn't
Mhm.
feel forced. It feels so organic. So I definitely can resonate with what you're saying, and it sounds like that's something you found early on. And I know you do have your major in background when it comes to family and child development, as well as human services. So how are you able to intertwine all those different elements, and how do they play upon each other?
I'm so glad you asked that. So there was a season in my life where I felt like, am I doing too much? Like, am I too all over the place?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, and I really had to sit down with myself and be like, girl, if you that girl, just say that. No, I'm just kidding. But no, for real, like, if if you really are good at all these different things, and if God has given you a gift to dabble and to be able to move in and out of different places, just embrace it. So
Yeah.
sometimes it seems like, to me or to the naked eye, it may not work together or may not intertwine. And then I might be teaching a dance workshop and I find myself over here encouraging and motivating somebody that's at the dance workshop.
Yep,
Because
yep.
what does dance have to do with life coaching? And so, to answer your question, sometimes it doesn't go together, but I believe that every single tool in your arsenal, one way or another, is going to show up. And you just have to decide in what spaces. Am I giving 85% life coach and 15% something else? So you just have to figure out how to use all of those things. And sometimes it's not always 50-50 or even across the board. Life coaching, I mean, sorry, my family and child development piece came about because I said this is years ago, I said I was going to do a nonprofit dealing with children, and maybe in the future, I don't know. But then I pivoted once I started to grow and learn more and I got older. I feel like you kind of change a little bit. I still have a heart for children. I still work with children. But life coaching is kind of more where my heart is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That, that's beautiful. It's a lot. Again, I hate to say this again, but I love a lot of what you said. I just told Marcus offline that we were teaching students how to do elevator pitches, and I had said to them, I'm like, one thing that you want to do is make sure that you're confident. I'm like, but let's break down the word, and I love this definition. It was basically like the root word is confide, which means to
Mm-hmm.
trust. And I said, so when we're talking about self confidence, it's to trust yourself. And they was like, you heard everybody like, But I was like, but
Yeah.
how do you build that? I was like, through the work, right? Like every time that you get up and you do the thing you said you were gonna do, that's the work, right? So when you were saying like, man, I'm that girl, and I hear the confidence, I'm like, it's because like you actually put the work in, and you had the people come to you and ask you for the advice. You gave them the advice. They did what they wanted to. It worked. You know what I mean? And so I hear that. But then there was something else that you said that stuck with me too, that I say all the time, and I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. Um, oh, it's escaping me right now, but I'll just go ahead and ask you a question. Let's
Okay.
talk a little bit about your world tour. You recently, well, your national tour, excuse me, before it's too late. What inspired that bold movement?
Well, first of all, let's call it a world tour because we're going to go ahead and
For
speak it
sure,
into
for sure.
existence.
Hold on. Let's go ahead and talk that.
Right?
Yeah, yeah, for
We're
sure,
going to speak it into existence.
for sure.
Man, gosh, before it's too late was birthed from one single action. There was a young lady in Delaware named Amy Joyner Francis who lost her life to her fellow students at her school in Delaware. Some say it was over a boy. Some say, I don't know. I wasn't there. But when I heard the news, it broke my heart to
Mm,
know that that baby's life was taken from her for foolishness, at a place where her parents sent her to learn and to be safe. And as soon as I heard the news, and that wasn't the first time I heard of something happening or bullying or something, but for whatever reason, this particular story, it just broke my heart. And I was like, well, what can I do? What can I, at the time I was living in Virginia, I was like, what can I do from Virginia? At this point, I had quit my job. We'll talk about that later. I had quit my 9 to 5 and I was doing coaching full time. And I literally just, I turned my phone on. I went Facebook Live and I was like, listen, this is what happened to this baby. We need to say something. If you're a youth worker, if you work with children in any capacity, you need to have a talk with them about bullying and about all these different things before it's too late. That wasn't there was no tour, there was no hashtag. I literally was just speaking from the heart, and that's what came out. So later on that week, I went home, which is a small town in Virginia, and I thought I was going to apply to a summer job. I was like, I just need a little money. I'm doing this coaching thing, but bills are still bills.
Yeah, yeah.
And after after the interview, I went to the Boys and Girls Club because it was right next door, and I knew some of the staff that worked at the Boys and Girls Club. And I was just sharing with her. I was like, "Did you hear about the young lady in Delaware? Blah blah blah." So I was like, "Do you mind if I speak to the kids about just bullying, just kind of see where their heart is?" She was like, "Yeah, when?" I said, "Today."
Yeah.
And so and I went in and I talked to the kids, and so she was like, well, we have another location at the elementary school. I was like, okay. She was like, when can you go? I was like, today. And so literally I went across town, went to the elementary school. She was like, well, I can connect you with 2 boys and girls clubs in North Carolina. When can you go? I was like, tomorrow. And literally I spoke at the Boys and Girls Clubs in Emporia that day. And then I got in my car and I went and spoke at the 2 Boys and Girls Clubs in North Carolina. And then I got home and I was like, yo, I'm onto something. I got my notebook. And let me tell you something. If I get my notebook, it's over.
Yeah, yeah,
If I get my don't mess around and give me a dry erase board. But I got my notebook and I just wrote down cities of like places where I knew people lived.
yeah.
I was like, I know somebody in Chicago, I know somebody in Maryland, and I just literally wrote it out. And I picked up the phone and I said, hey, can I come sleep on your couch? And of course, everyone was like, yeah. So then I pulled up a map that showed all the Boys and Girls Clubs around the places where the people said I could sleep on their couches. And I called him and said, hey, I'm a speaker and I want to come speak at your Boys and Girls Club for free about bullying. And all of them said yes.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
from a Facebook video, we started out with my first tour was probably maybe 15 stops, give or take. I drove it all by myself, got me a little rental car, and it was me in the open road just driving.
mm,
And once I built that, I was able to come back on the road later on that next year. And because I had did those first couple of ones, when I called the second batch for the tour, I could say, hey, here's my resume. I've already spoken at 15 clubs.
yeah,
So of course now they're more open to open the door because they can just call the other club and say, did she come? Is she legit? Oh yeah, okay, cool. Before I knew it, if you have a map and you draw a line down the middle of the map, I've been the whole right side of the nation, the middle and right side. So I've been 37 states already.
Let's
mm,
go.
And so that's literally how it happened from a Facebook video and just call them and say, can I come to your club? Can I come to your club? And it got tricky when I got to states where I didn't know anybody. It was some clubs, they were like, listen, I love what you're doing. I want to pay for your hotel room. I love what you're doing. I want to feed you. I love what you're doing. I'm going to give you a stipend. But I literally offered them the message for free, and my heart was pure. And the people on my friends on Facebook and family members, they saw what I was doing, and I was able to raise money just from saying, "Hey, this is what I want to do," and people poured into me. And I literally traveled the entire country, the entire middle and east side of the country, and to Canada because people just believed in the mission.
Mm. 37 states and Canada. That is, well, one,
oh
kudos.
yeah, for sure.
I,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was gonna say we need some type of sound effect for that
yeah,
because
yeah,
a lot of people talk about it. They may have a vision, but to tangibly take that first step to start building, right? A hashtag that we're really focused on is pure hearted impact. everything that you
Mm.
just said goes hand in hand with that.
Write
It
Yeah.
that
was
down.
genuine. It was pure. Yeah, that. Hold on to that. That's you, family.
Yeah.
But I,
You
I,
see her, she got
I
that notebook. She got
you
that
feel
notebook.
me?
I see she was like,
Listen,
yeah,
we growing together.
yeah, for
you,
sure.
that's what this is all about. But I love that. I love that. I see the really positive, optimistic elements that came with it. But I also heard you talk about quitting your job, right? I heard you talk about taking that stroll, taking those rides by yourself, right? There was a lot of time in isolation to think, to reflect. And I know you were moving again off of pure hearted impact and pure hearted intentions, but there's still a whole nother side, the sustainability, right, that comes into play. I'm
Yeah.
curious to know, right? Some of those individuals who may want to pivot to the entrepreneurship route, what advice would you give them that you learned, to ensure they don't have to hop over to some of those same hurdles?
Listen, don't do what I did. That's the advice. I was dumb. It was stupid. I'm
Yeah.
kidding. So here's the thing. I wasn't married yet and I didn't have kids. And I feel like that, let me just start there. I was
Mm,
single as a Pringle. It was just me. And so that's one thing. I can honestly say, and looking back at it, it's like, girl, was that faith or stupidity? And so,
Mm.
person who's listening, is it faith or is it stupidity? What I will say is that when you are driven by passion and when you're excited about something, sometimes you do make what other people would say is like, oh, that's silly, that doesn't make sense. And I just want to say, it's not going to always make sense to people. Write a plan and don't be afraid to pivot. What I did with my tour, I knew where I needed to go. I knew exactly how many miles it was going to be. I know how many days it was going to be. I know how much it was going to cost. And so when I asked people for donations or whatever the case may be, your elevator speech, I was able to confidently say, this is what I'm doing. This is the impact I'm making. This is what
yeah.
the statistics say. So you have to know what you're doing. So I think that's a big thing because a lot of people don't want to support other people because number one, they don't sound confident and they're just like, I don't know. Well, how
Yeah.
much is this? I don't know. Well, what do you know?
Yeah.
And so that was one thing. But the other thing is I was so passionate and so just ready to whatever. I gave up my apartment. I was living in a house. I had roommates. Again, I was young. I gave up my little room in my little house because I wanted to cut down all costs. So I don't want somebody to listen to this and be like, I need to move out and I'm just gonna be on a whim. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is in that time of my life, because I wasn't married, because I didn't have kids, I could kind of do that. And I had a support system in which my mom or whoever, if I needed to bum it out on the couch or go stay, I stayed with my aunt for 6 months, my aunt and uncle for 6 months, because I was literally, when I tell you I was so booked and busy, I was never at home for 2 days in a row.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I could move like that. So you have to figure out where your life is and what you're doing because I can't do that now
Yeah.
because of my home life. I can't do that now. And so you have to figure out what season of life you're in, who does what, like the decisions that you make, who does it affect, and what can you do? What could you cut back on? Could I cut off Netflix? Because what could I really do with that extra money? Could I cut out eating out so much because that extra money really could be a hotel stay? And so just figuring out what works for you in your life.
That's real good.
James, before you dive
Yeah.
in, can I
Yeah.
see your shirt real quick, Jaleesa?
You said what?
Can I see your shirt real quick? Can you
Yeah,
show
yeah,
what
yeah,
it
yeah, yeah,
says?
yeah. Can you see it?
My ancestors' wildest dreams.
Okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
literally, like as you were talking, I was thinking about your shirt as well too. I want to
Yeah.
coin a term, strategically irrational, right?
Mm,
that's the move
Yeah.
I heard you make. It was strategic because you were so
Yeah.
dead on a specific outcome. You knew how you gonna go about it, but
Yeah.
the route you may have went to the outside looking in may have been completely
You
irrational.
want to know what's funny, Marcus? Is like even my response to what she said. I'm gonna still say it because I disagree. It wasn't irrational at all because I believe that the more prepared you are, the more confident you'll be. When she
Hmm.
went knocking on doors, she
Hmm.
had the answers to questions that people had. Many people that get into entrepreneurship or try to pursue some things that they want to do, sometimes, like she said, they don't have the answers
Hmm.
and they don't seem as confident, and that's what messes them up because they didn't do the research. They
Hmm.
saw somebody else do it and saw somebody else succeed. The other person told them it was cool, and then they tried to do it. So I believe that it wasn't irrational at all. It was very strategic. So let's take the irrational, out of
So,
that.
the only reason, again, though, we love playing devil's advocate here,
Yeah,
so
for
we
sure.
I
don't
love
mind.
it. I
But
love
see,
it.
Yeah.
but that's why I call it strategically irrational.
Mhm.
For the internal perspective, right, from Jaleesa's thinking, it was strategic. From the outside looking in, somebody who may be naive to the passion that was driving her, right, it may appear irrational, and that's why I want to lean on your shirt because I hear there was an inner drive for you. It was deeper than meet the eye, and that's why, regardless of the irrational element, you were gonna perform regardless, right? Because of the driven,
Listen,
because of the why, because of all those different. You were willing to sleep on the couch. You were willing to give up the Netflix, right?
That's
For
real.
the average individual today, that may be irrational. I'm not doing that, right? No,
Yeah, yeah,
but she
yeah,
was driven and she knew exactly what she was gonna do.
yeah.
So again, I had to highlight that, and I had to leverage the ancestors charging you up because there was a speech I made, and it goes along the lines of if you move as if your ancestors were watching you, you'll
mm,
move that much different, right?
mm.
And there was something deeper within you at that moment that was driving you. You saw there was a need, right? You had to fill a gap. And it wasn't just, hey, I have a solution. It was I'm going all in. I'm jumping off the deep
Marcus,
end. I'm not, you feel me?
listen,
So
watch yourself. So listen,
Yeah.
when I was in Alabama, I feel like I'm trying not to get emotional because I'm a thug in my mind.
Hmm.
When I was in Alabama, I love Black history, and I was like, while I'm here, I have to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge, where Bloody Sunday, and when they were doing all of that. When I tell you, you could like even think about it right now, I get goosebumps. And I took pictures on the bridge, and I thought about my ancestors walking across that bridge just for the right to vote. And I also thought, and not to make it political, but I also thought about how my very first time voting, I voted for Barack Obama. And I thought about how I was able to navigate even across state lines as a Black woman. And I'm not gonna lie, I did have a little fear because I was by myself.
Yeah.
But overall, I didn't have the fear that they had just to move freely.
Yeah.
And when you think about that, so to your point, when you think about that and you think about the liberties that we have and the things we're still fighting for as well, but when you think about the liberties that we have and the things that they fought for, no, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams
Yes.
because
Yes.
this is what they had in mind when they were marching and when they were being beat and everything else. And so I don't take that lightly. And I also think about the legacy that I want to leave behind and that one day my great, great, great grandchildren may be wearing a shirt similar to mine and what I have in mind for them. So what I need to do now to make sure that they can move in liberty.
That's
So
real good. That's real
absolutely.
good. So you mentioned, no longer being single. I got two questions for you. I'm interested at what point in the journey did you find your husband? Because I'm like, was it like when you were in one of those eastern states, you was like, oh man, he caught your eye, or was it, somewhere, in North Carolina where it was like, all right, I'm gonna put my roots here now. You know what I mean?
So the crazy thing is I met my husband on Facebook when I was 17 years old.
Oh wow.
mm, mm.
Seven, so I had just graduated high school, and he sent me a DM. I don't even think we were calling it DMs back then,
Nah, it was just like an
but
inbox or something. Instant message. It was like an instant message or something.
instant messenger or something.
Yeah,
So
for
he sent
sure.
me a DM. He was like, "Hey, I think you're cute, and I'd like to get to know you." And I was like, "Oh, you cute to know." But all jokes aside, we met right after I graduated high school. And when I went off to college, we were kind of doing our own things, and then we ended up reconnecting. We've always stayed connected through social media, and even throughout the years. Happy birthday, just light stuff, but
Yeah.
never really like dating heavy or anything like that because the time was never right. And fast forward, so the crazy thing is because we stayed connected, he saw this whole evolution, he saw me literally from high school to college to graduating to Coach Jaleesa to all the things. And so when I met him, I didn't feel a need to explain who I was because
Yeah.
he's known me since I was 17 years old. And so, as a matter of fact, later on this year, I would have known him longer than I haven't known him. And so I've known him
Mm,
almost half of my life. And so that's the beautiful thing. Even when he was watching me from afar, I don't feel the need to perform or feel the need to say or do all the right things because he's known me since way back when.
yeah.
And so, yeah, we met on Facebook. Like I said, we didn't get connected or connected romantically until Coach Jaleesa had already launched.
Mm-hmm.
And even with that, he's a very, we're the opposite. I'm the talkative, I'm working the room, and he's kind of in the back, real chill, real laid back.
Yeah.
And so even when I would do like speaking engagements and different things like that, he would drive me there, or he would, hey, I think you need to look at this one, this contract, or different things like that. And so he's not going to be the one that's going to get up and introduce me to everyone and just work the room, but he's that quiet voice and that steady person in my life that I can bounce ideas off of, and just it just is what it is. So he's from a very small town, just like I am. We're from neighboring towns, went to rival schools, and yeah, so that's
Yeah.
how we met. We had so many mutual friends, but I didn't meet him, and that's why I feel like timing is always so important.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny.
Yeah.
I think Marcus know this, but I've known my now girlfriend since preschool. So I've known her since preschool. So I've literally known her longer than I haven't. Than I haven't.
Wow.
And I never thought about it like that until you just said that.
Yeah.
So when I leave this podcast, I'm gonna go tell her, like, man, I've known you longer than I haven't.
For real though.
Like, you
For
know what I
real.
mean? Like that's crazy. But I love how even when you were just talking about your husband, you started to light up. You have a blog and it's called Happy Wife, Happy Life.
I
But
do.
you
Yeah.
you flipped the cliche a little bit. I would love for you to talk about that. But I would also like for you to tell our listeners what the real work behind happiness and partnership and purpose.
Man. So happy wife, happy life really is just clickbait, because I really
Yeah.
do believe in happy spouse, happy house. I really
Yes.
do believe that. But happy wife, happy life, if I'm being honest, when mama is happy, everybody happy. Marcus can
Yeah.
listen. I know if
Yeah.
your wife mad, the whole
Yeah.
atmosphere is
Yeah.
different. So
Yeah.
let's be
Yeah.
for real. But all jokes aside, when I first started the blog, it was Save Single and Successful.
Okay.
And so after I got
Hmm.
married, I was like, I need a brand change because I'm not single. Like, and so that's really why I changed it. And it was really just to pull people in. And when I write, it's such a sister girl next door, this is my cousin type feel to it. It's
Yeah.
I talk with slang and we just chilling or whatever. The crazy thing about Happy Wife, Happy Life is that, and I just want to go back a little bit when it was Save Single and Successful. I ended up writing a blog. I was in Dallas, Texas, doing a dance workshop. And I was at a Starbucks and I was like, I'm gonna go write this. But I haven't written this week. Let me just write something real quick. But I wrote from my heart.
Mhm.
Do you know that one single blog has over 17,000 readers? That
Mm.
one single blog. And I don't say that to say, oh yeah, look at me, because I was writing. To me, as I look back on it, it wasn't even anything that special about it. But let me tell you where I fumbled, because I'm not gonna just talk about my success and not talk about my failures.
Mhm.
Where I fumbled is that when it got that many readers, I did not have a follow up.
Yeah.
I should have made a shirt. I should have had something.
Something. Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
have nothing. I
Not
had
a
all these
funnel.
eyes
Nothing.
on me.
Yeah.
I had all these eyes on me, and I fumbled. I fumbled. And so, but fast forward, moving on, I switched it over to Happy Wife, Happy Life. And the thing is, partnership is so important, because it can affect the bag. If you with somebody and they secretly hating on you, if you with somebody and they just like, hey, can you watch the kids, or you got the kids, and they like, no, now I'm over here just speaking engagement, and my 2 year old over here pulling on decorations, like
Yeah.
you
Yep.
have to like, you
Yep.
have to be, even now as I'm doing this podcast, I'm like, I told him, I was like, listen, y'all better keep it down. So he up there like making sure the kids stay quiet so y'all don't hear all of that in the background. But all jokes
Yeah.
aside, partnership matters. And without like name dropping or doing too much, I even look at people where the wife is maybe more popular or more powerful, and
Mhm.
how the husband acts in, when I'm looking at interviews. And I think about Oprah and Stedman in their little situation. And I'm just like, he never walks up and like, give me that mic,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and so I think everyone just needs to, like, I hate to say it like this, but kind of just know their place and play their
Yeah.
part. And when I was working at McDonald's, which again, another story, but when I was working at McDonald's with a master's degree, my manager used to say this line, at McDonald's or different fast food restaurants, they would have like a mystery shopper come in, and we kind of always knew like the time in which they would come. And so when that time would hit, my manager will always say, Aces in their places, aces in their places. Meaning, if you're strong at fries, you need to be at the fries. If you're strong at the front counter, you need to be at the front counter. And so it's the same thing with partnership and being in covenant with someone and doing business. Go where you're strong. My husband knows that I'm better at finances. So I do the budget. I ain't gonna even hold you. He a better cook than I am. So if he cook, I'm a clean. He gonna make the money. I'm gonna budget the money. And so just go where your strengths are and play your part, and we're gonna be okay. It keeps everything balanced and in sync.
You gonna
Mm-hmm.
learn today.
Man, tell them.
when everybody know they role, you put egos aside, you're able to flourish that much more, right? It makes the system
Absolutely.
so much more seamless across the board, and that kind of leads me to my next comment as well. I know faith, family, and legacy all go hand in hand, as we all know, right?
Absolutely.
I know you're a wife, you're a mother, and you show up in a lot of different spaces when it comes to community, when it comes to being an advocate across the board. So I'm curious to know, how do you focus on balancing being a servant's leader with also protecting the peace of your home simultaneously?
Boundaries. That's the word of the day. Boundaries. My
Yeah.
phone goes on do not disturb at 9 o'clock.
Hmm.
If it's an emergency, it's gonna still be I'm kidding. But no, all jokes aside, my phone really does go on do not disturb at 9 because I have to have time for me. And that looks different every day. Sometimes it's reading a book, sometimes it's a bath, sometimes it's a show. It could be different things, but you can't pour from an empty cup. And
Hmm.
so that is literally how, like, I have to show up for myself because if I don't pour into myself, if I'm not showing up for myself, I can't show up for anybody else. And I know that sounds so cliche because everyone is talking about self care and boundaries, but it's so real. I'm in therapy and I'm proud to say it. I go to church and I'm proud to say it. I pray, I read my word, like whatever you believe in, do that thing. But do whatever you need to do to pour into yourself and to also have something that is specifically just for you and nobody else. I love my man, I love my kids, and we're gonna do our family thing. But I need something specifically for Jaleesa. Notably, I found out that Brandy and Monica are going on tour. Guess who's gonna be there? Guess who's gonna
Hey,
be
Front and
there?
center.
Me.
hey, I
Me.
feel it. I
So
feel it.
and so my thing is R&B music is lit. I love live music, and so that's my thing. And so that's how you do that balance that you don't give. And the thing is, I wrote a blog a while back called "Maybe I'm Selfish." And again, just clickbait because I want people to like, what you mean you selfish? But it talks about just self-care because how dare I show up for everybody else? And
Yeah.
I say I love myself. I show up for everybody else and I don't break promises to anybody else,
Yep.
but I break promises to myself. Ain't that silly?
Mm, 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 mm.
Hmm.
And so, yeah.
I found that most individuals who are in the life coaching, therapists, anything of that nature, they all go to therapy themselves. I also find that
Absolutely.
all of those individuals take time for self. And again, and yours might be R&B. I figure out mine was kayaking, right? Where I don't want to talk to
Oh,
nobody. I want to be left alone on the water. I want to be able to decompress. And to your point, a lot of times we are the burdens of a whole lot of other individuals' weight, baggage, and to come with them because of the character and the spirit in which we have. But simultaneously, to your point, it could be very draining because of that oftentimes. And that's the only way to really put that gas back in your tank to be able to charge up. My therapist just called me and told me, "Hey, bro, I'm taking a sabbatical for 3 weeks, bro. With you when I get back." And I
Yeah.
said, "Bro, I love that. I appreciate that." I was hurt
no.
kind of honestly, like, "Hey, bro, I'm trying to see you though." But he was transparent and saying, "Listen, he need to take time for him as well." And that was
Yeah.
very admirable just across the board. James, were you about to say something, bro?
Nah, man. I was just gonna say check on your strong friends. You know what I'm saying? They need people
Yeah.
too. So, it's nothing selfish about self care at all.
Yeah.
But you got it, Marcus.
Nah, for sure. I definitely agree. I definitely agree. So I'm curious to know, right? Now that you have a little girl, I've had the pleasure of meeting Lil Ma on a few of our calls, right? What
Oh
is
my
one
God.
thing that you're doing to be intentional, just from motherhood perspective, to be able to pour into her, to give her that creative freedom? We hear a lot of times that, right, parents in this generation, they give them a phone, they give them a tablet, right? Hey, smack that mug, right? But they
Yeah.
give them a phone, they'll give them a tablet, they'll give them some form of a device because again, we might be on a call, we might be doing business,
Yeah.
something of that nature. Knowing what you know and having the background of what you do, what type of practical steps are you doing and that you might give to other parents to also be engaged with them in the midst of still handling business and different elements to come with that?
So I am a tablet mom. I'm not going to get up here and lie and say my child has never touched an iPad. My girl be on that iPad and she be swiping and slinging and everything.
Yeah.
But all things in balance. And so one thing, and I have two daughters. So I have an almost 7-year old and then my 2-year old. One thing that I do is I show up for them in a way that I felt like I would want to be showed up for. Like my mom is amazing. She's still here with us. I love her to pieces, but she worked 2 jobs. And so there were some gaps there. And so I stay at home with my kids. And I feel like even just being home and being present and not sending them to daycare, I feel like that speaks a lot.
Yeah.
But more than that, I want to show them, oh, I want to show them everything. I don't want them to have to learn from anybody else about anything. Yeah, they're going to go to school, they're going to learn from their peers and different things like that. But I am their first teacher. So, for
Mm.
example, I did this state project for Elisa where I got people to write on a postcard. I don't know if you guys have ever seen on social media. It says, a husband and a wife did it for each other, and it was like my love for you is so strong that it made it all the way to Alabama, and they just had random people like write that on a card and take a picture with the thing in the background. So I did something similar for Elisa, my oldest daughter, and it said like, hi Elisa from Hawaii, from Idaho, from literally we got all 50 states, and we got some different countries as well. And so I say that to say, number one, that did not cost me a dime. And then number two, it taught her geography. And then I was like, all right, I'm about to take you to all these places. And so right now I'm on this personal campaign. I call it Elisa's 25 by 25. So I wanted to take her to 25 states by 2025. So far she's been to 22, and we're about to do state number 23, 24, and 25 in 2 weeks.
Sheesh.
And
I
because the thing is,
I want
and
to give a little clap real quick. You said, "Wait a minute." That's a so real quick. Are y'all Are you driving? Like, how are y'all?
so this particular leg of the trip we are driving, but we've
Got you.
flown to places.
Hmm.
We used to live in Washington State, so just different things. But the reason why I want to show my daughters, and to come back to the original question, the reason why I want to show my girls these things is because when they get older, I don't want them to be easily impressed by a guy who can fly them out to Miami.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want my oldest to be like, Miami. My mama took me there when I was 3.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
what?
For
I
sure.
mean, so because the thing is, when we show them different things, they can show up to a table confidently, not acting as if they've never been anywhere, not
Oh yeah.
acting as if they've never done anything. But she can confidently say, "Oh yeah, that's nice. We vacation there often." I want to create a life for them where they feel comfortable to be at the table, because not because someone put them there because of the color of their skin, but because that's where they're supposed to be, and that their first experience with the white tablecloth and using the correct glasses and forks wasn't some etiquette class. It's because I already taught them.
Yeah.
And so it's
Hmm.
up to us to pour that stuff into them, because we're competing with social media, with their peers and everything else. But what are you teaching them at home? They still say yes ma'am and no ma'am, and yes sir and no sir. They still know what you're supposed to do when you're being greeted. You shake hands, you look someone in the eye, you say hello, how are you? You have conversations, not
Yes.
just texting and yeah, no, speak up. Speak up. I'm very passionate about that. I work with kids, and you're talking to them and they looking down at their shoes and
Yep.
twiddling
Yep.
their thumbs. No, sit up and speak up. And so that's what my girls are learning. Sometimes I got to kind of pull myself back, like Jaleesa. They're 2 and 6. Calm down, but I feel like the earlier you put that in them, the more they can kind of grow and cultivate it.
That's
Hmm.
good. That's good.
Yeah.
So we got one last question before we pivot to our growth segment. The question I have for you is, what's one principle you teach your clients and your kids that you pray outlives you?
Mm, man. Okay. I would say to bet on yourself. To bet on yourself, simply put, because like we were saying earlier about auditioning within to apply within, like we were talking about being confident, about how you show up in the world. You have to bet on yourself, because anything that you want to believe, you could find it. If
Yeah.
you told me right now the earth is flat, you can do some research and you'll find somebody who's saying the earth is flat, or you'll find somebody that said the earth is round. So you you have to bet on yourself, because whatever you're looking for out there, you'll be able to find it. But when you come back and center yourself, what is right to you? And so I feel like, in order to navigate this world, and I tell my daughters, I tell my clients, I tell anyone when I'm doing speeches, to bet on yourself, but don't just bet on your current self. Bet on your
Mm,
future self. There's this
mm,
tagline that I use that says, my present place is not my permanent place. So if 5 years down the road, if you come back looking for me here, you won't find me, because I
Yeah.
hope that you grow. I hope that you're not still in the same place. And if you ever decide that you want to compare the Jaleesa of today to the Jaleesa of 2015, you are sadly mistaken. Because
mhm.
I hope that we will grow together.
Yeah.
And so bet on yourself, all versions of yourself, even the parts that you're not proud of, because even the parts that you're not proud of, they, even sis that I won't be claiming, like I don't want to claim, even those moments will come back and help me, because I'll find myself talking to somebody in their youth who's dealing with some of those self-esteem issues. And I can say, you know what, I remember when. Well, I
Yeah.
remember when I made those decisions as well. And so just bet on yourself.
That's
Yeah,
good.
what I heard you say is what you manifest, you attract, right? And that's why it's
Mm,
very intentional. Focus that energy specifically on it. I also heard you say leverage your past to be a beacon for your future, right?
mm.
You understand those stumbling blocks again led you to be able to stand straight up as needed. And I also heard you as you were reflecting on engaging with your children, right? Is be intentional with speaking to the future version of them. And I also heard
Absolutely.
you just referenced that now we have a lot of conversations with youth, and matter of fact we did a circle, and at the end we paired everybody up and had them affirm to the individual to the left of them. And essentially within the conversation I talked to a young man, and I told him, 'cause he was sitting there high, he was intoxicated, he was smacked. I said, listen, I know they probably drug you out your bed, but there's a reason you're here, and I'm speaking to the
Yep.
future version that understands
Mm.
that. And as soon as we started talking, I saw the whole demeanor change, and it was as if the future version was present in that very moment, right?
Yeah.
And I love how you do that with your children, right? That exposure element, because
Yeah.
the future version of them is going to be able to reflect like, I've been there, I've done
Yep.
that, right?
Yep.
That's already a tool in my bag, but I appreciate it, but not so big-eyed as a lot of these young women may be at these point in time. So again, I love how your background goes hand in hand with your journey, but goes hand in hand with how you're raising your children and what you're manifesting across the board. I think you are a phenomenal individual, and that's why I'm so glad that we crossed paths. Before we do pivot to the growth segment, I just want to get a little bit of feedback from you. Is why is it so intentional to be present in small conversations? And the reason
Mm.
I asked that, and the reason I asked that is we literally met right through some type of transaction from a work experience, but there was some energy there that clicked, that caused it to continue to build. And again, knowing what you know from a life coach background, from all the studies and what you've done, I would love for you to share with our listeners, why is it so important that you be intentional with these different interactions, because we never know where they're going to go.
Man, Marcus, I'm so glad you asked that. You don't know who you're speaking to.
1000%.
Mm,
That's
mm,
why it's
1000%.
important. You literally, when you, I know someone who's like, I will not go speak at a certain place if there's not at least 1,000 people there. And the thing is, the reason why I don't adhere to that is because the future president of the United States could be in the audience.
Yep.
You do not know who you're speaking to. But even more than that, with one-on-one conversations, you don't know who's on the edge of giving up. You don't
mm,
know what they're about to do when they get home. You don't know what they're
mhm.
carrying. And so because of that, I'm going to treat you as if you're the only person in the world. And we're going to have that conversation. And then the thing is, one thing about me, and I hope that other people carry this, especially if you're working with kids and especially if you are in the business of motivating people, I hope that when people leave my presence, they feel warm.
Yeah.
I hope that I make people feel good about themselves. I hope that when people leave an experience that I've hosted, that they feel like, man, how can I bottle that up? Like I want that. And not on a jealousy tip, not but just I hope that I make people
Mm-hmm.
feel loved.
Yeah.
My friend gave me the greatest compliment ever. She said, Jaleesa, talking to you is like, it's gonna sound funny, but she said, talking to you is like drinking a cup of hot chocolate on a cold day.
Mm,
I
mm,
hope
mm,
I
mm.
give people that all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And I think about Chick-fil-A. I know this is random, but I think about Chick-fil-A and how no matter which Chick-fil-A you go to in the country, they all say my pleasure. They all have this standard of service about them. I hope that with the conversation with me, that you feel that you were listened to, that you were heard, that you were catered to. I'm the type of friend, the type of coach, the type of speaker that if in conversation you told me that it's your dog's birthday next week, I'm going to put a card in the mail for your dog's birthday because the small details is what matters.
Yeah.
Mm.
Everybody can pick up on the big things, but I pick up on the crumbs. And that's how you get people to come back and want to hire you for things. And I want to share this very short story. When I was speaking in Virginia, my pastor asked me to speak at this high school, and it wasn't paying. But he asked me to speak at this high school, and I was like, okay, cool. Spoke at the high school. I think I talked about resume building and job interviews and all that good stuff. And so we had a great time. Maybe about a week or so later, the principal called me, and I was like, okay, what is this about? The principal called me and said, the kids enjoyed your talk so much about resumes now. They enjoyed your talk so much that they want you to come back and be the commencement speaker for their graduation.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I speak at the
Okay.
graduation. It's phenomenal. To this day, that's the biggest crowd I've ever spoken into. I forget, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands. Great, fantastic. From that opportunity, someone in the audience went back and took my name to their boss. And I was able to speak at this statewide convention. From that one, another opportunity came. So I said all that to say, let us not be so grandiose and so full of ourselves that we skip over the free opportunities because we don't know what this opportunity will lead to. Me saying yes to this free opportunity at this high school led to the graduation, led to a state convention, which led to another state convention. So the
Hey,
small conversations matter.
that's it. And the brand speaks for itself. And I was told the brand isn't what you push to the public, it's what the public says about your name in private, right?
That's good. You write that down.
I love it. I love it. But that's but that's it. But I know as you got the journal up, I'm gonna go ahead and pull on you real quick while you got it. I'm
Yeah.
curious to know. We've had a phenomenal conversation talking through a lot of different elements about who Mr. Jaleesa Robinson is, but what do you have for us in the form of a growth segment for our next guest to be able to tap into?
Mm. I don't know how y'all usually do this. Am I posing a question, or what am I doing? I
It
want to
could
make
be
sure that I give the
it could
people what they
be
need.
it could be whatever it is for you. If it's a question, if it's a comment, if it's a mantra you live by, something to
Okay.
inspire and spark the next individual is there on their growth journey.
Okay. Okay. It is okay to switch it up. Don't get so tied into who you've been and how you believe people perceive you that you're afraid to venture out a little bit. Yes, stay true to yourself, absolutely. I don't mean switch it up to the point where you're unrecognizable, but also do the research, figure out what it is that you want to do. So many times we don't venture out because we're scared we want to disappoint people.
Yep.
But let me tell you this, no matter what you do, somebody gonna have something to say. And
100%.
Right.
so I just want you to know that we're going to ignore what my pastor calls the boat people, the people who are afraid to walk on water, who have a lot to say, but their perspective is the people who've never done it before.
Yep.
Hmm.
So before you listen to the voice, you have to ask yourself, is this a trusted voice?
Mhm.
Is this the voice of someone who's done it before? Okay, you're playing the game. Is this someone who's speaking from the sidelines? Has this person ever picked up a
Hmm.
ball? And so don't be afraid to switch it up, but trust your voice, trust your inner voice, and also lean into wise counsel and mentorship. really lean into the people who've done it before.
Yeah.
And but this is the last thing I'll say. Realize that everything you learn, whether it's from a podcast, a song, a sermon, or whatever the case may be, it's all buffet style, baby. It's all buffet style.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had the little ones now. We had the little ones coming to say what's
God.
up on the podcast, I guess. But but Miss Coach Jaleesa, we truly appreciate you coming and blessing the podcast. Before we let you go, we would like to ask, where could the people find you if they wanted to tap in with you?
Coach Jaleesa on everything. So right now, my Instagram and Facebook, all of that is real family friendly. But I am in the midst of a relaunch. But literally, you can find me on Threads, on X, on Facebook. Everything is Coach Jaleesa, Jaleesa.
Okay, let's go together, family. We appreciate y'all. Until next time, peace out.
Trying to find me a balance in life. Why I'm still trying to gamble with life. Wanna be great, it gotta come with a price. Gotta watch what you ask for. I strive for these moments in life. I'm still learning and giving advice. I try carrying the weight of the world. See, I saw when I was losing myself. I had to catch my breath. Nobody got you like you got yourself. So it's important for you to know who you are. Cause in the dark you gotta fight with your heart. Even if your heart broken apart. But they still gon' judge me. So tell me how that's been here for me. I had to see that everybody didn't love me. Like everybody ain't for me. I took chances just to see for myself. Cause for the longest I've been hurting myself. Trying to blame someone else. I stand on it, don't regret what I did. Cause I can live that my intentions were real. My heart just needed to heal. Gotta get back to loving myself and trusting myself and better my health. Nobody loves you like you loving yourself. You gotta know who you are. Gotta get back to loving myself and trusting myself and better my health. Nobody loves you like you loving yourself. And be